I have a very exciting guest for me today, Elissa Kalver. She was diagnosed with cancer, stage 4 metastatic breast cancer at age 34 years old in 2021. But that she didn't let cancer define her. She is a thriver. She's not a survivor. We don't say that. She's a thriver. She's a founder and CEO of WeGotThis.org. She's collaborated with big brands such as Crocs and Bombas. And she's took her organization, her nonprofit organization, WeGotThis.org, from a local startup to a national organization. So much to get into today. She's so inspiring. She inspires me. Let me tell you, I couldn't do what she's doing, and I have a lot to learn. So, Elissa, how are you?
Hey, good. How are you? Thanks for the nice introduction.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, of course.
Yes. Let's just get right into it. Why did you want to start this nonprofit gift registry for cancer? You could have done anything with your time, but you invested it into this, which is very hard and very impressive. But why did you do it?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, when I started going through cancer myself, from diagnosis and starting treatment and that experience, I started thinking about what aspects of that I thought could be better. And that's just perhaps the entrepreneurial side of me and ways that I've always thought about most things. But as I considered that, there was this clear missing gap to me. And it was very obvious because I was diagnosed just before my daughter's first birthday. So it wasn't that long ago that I was using resources like Baby List, like a baby registry. 10 years ago now, my husband and I had a wedding registry.
Wow.
And those are things that we've normalized so much for the good times. And when everyone was reaching out and wanting to help and all these wonderful things, that became an unintentional burden. It felt to me like, why don't we have better solutions for this? And I felt that early on. And it was really in my 5th round of chemo, in my original treatment plan, when I just felt the need to do something. I felt like everyone had told me to focus on myself, focus on getting better and helping myself and all of this. And of course, that's really important. But I think a lot of what I do for myself is through being able to also help others and think bigger picture of how I can take my experience and make it more valuable than just helping me. And that's when I started thinking about where was this biggest gap for me. And I felt like it was in facilitating giving and receiving from myself and my family and my friends. And so that's when I started this idea, which started out smaller in my mind simply because of our own mental limitations. I'm thinking, I'm going through cancer right now. I'm going through treatment. How can I help everyone everywhere? So initially, I thought, I'll help people locally here in LA. I'll focus on breast cancer because, again, how could I possibly help everyone with cancer all over the country and someday, hopefully, the world? And as I started talking out those ideas with some of my friends who I very much respect, in the business world and in the healthcare industry and all sorts of things that would understand what I was trying to accomplish, I realized that it actually made more sense to start bigger than to start smaller. By creating more of this national brand and online presence, we were able to create a platform that everyone could utilize rather than limiting it locally. So the reason why we focus on black and white as our colors and a lot of the intentional things that we do is because we want people to know that it's for every type of cancer. It's for everyone affected by cancer. The we is because it's for the patient, it's for the supporters, family and friends. Unfortunately, I don't know anyone not affected by cancer.
Yes. And you said something very interesting that I really haven't heard this before. It's kind of unorthodox. Instead of starting locally, you had the vision to start thinking big and executing big. What gave you the courage to do that? Because most people, and myself included, when I have a business idea, when I have an idea that I want to birth into reality, I'm not thinking national. I'm not thinking worldwide because that's not feasible yet. But you thought of that first. What made you think of that first? Was it because cancer affects everybody? Was it because the internal confidence? Was it a mixture of the two? Is it a reason that I'm not mentioning? So go ahead and explain that if you don't mind.
Sure. Yeah. I think that's a great observation. And honestly, I think I credit my community to that. Just like my friends and family inspired this idea, it was my friends and family who encouraged the idea to be bigger than what I thought it was. And I have no background in tech or websites or any of that. So it wasn't my initial thought. My initial thought was, in what ways can I help people to not have to have the same burden that I felt? And not just me, but with my husband and my friends, my family, who reached out and all they wanted to do was help. And it was actually our pediatrician, Dr. Julia, who said to me early on, give Eric, my husband,
Right.
a list of things. So when people ask how they can help, don't say no. She's like, I know you're not going to accept the help. But by letting them help, it's letting them in. It's letting them be a part of it. And they need that too. And I really thought about that, and I've thought about it a whole lot since, because when someone gets diagnosed, and using my scenario as an example, I was 34 when I was diagnosed. I know that I've seen other, friends my age from high school or college who have gone through things like cancer. And you see that and you think, wow, like that's someone I knew. They're my age. They're just like me. Like that can happen to me. And that can be scary and provoke
Especially
a lot
when
of
you know them.
feelings.
Yeah.
And to me, I made this conscious decision early on to be very open about my experience. And I think it is very respectable and understandable for people who don't choose that. It just felt like the right path for myself. And I think by being so open and sharing that, it allowed this collaboration of this idea to evolve. And through that, even the people who might not be comfortable sharing their story, they have this resource now because I did. And to me, that makes a lot of this just have such a bigger meaning and purpose than the negative parts that we could so easily focus on.
Were you always an open person by nature, or did this diagnosis and WeGotThis.org, did this really open that bridge for you in your personality, or were you always an open person with what you're going through?
I'd say, and I think anyone who knows me, that I've always been a very open person.
Okay, right.
I'm outgoing. I'm very collaborative. I love working as a team. I played field hockey in college. I love team sports. I've always been in sales, which is very team oriented. But I do feel like, and I hesitate to ever give cancer credit for much, but if we're looking at silver linings here and the positives, I feel like cancer brought out even more of my authentic self. I don't think anything that I'm doing now is different from how I've been my whole life, but I feel a release, almost a freedom in being able to express it in whatever way I feel like I can. And I think that unlocked for me a much bigger potential to help a lot more people than I ever thought was possible.
So do you mind getting into how you collaborated with first Crocs in the beginning and then Bombas later on?
Yeah, of course. So throughout my career and throughout what I've learned in business, I've just always put such an emphasis on networking. Not only because I think it's the best way to get to where you want to go, but because I truly enjoy it. I love meeting people, learning from them, and understanding how different things work. So it was actually Bombas that came up first. Before I even had this idea for We Got This, I was getting a lot of cuticle infections in my toes.
Right.
And it's such a small symptom that can be big. Like there were some nights that really sucked. I would like accidentally hit my foot into the wall or something, and it felt like, someone was just like ripping a knife through my toe. And a friend of mine was like, you should try Bombas. There's no seams in the toes. So I ordered some Bombas, and admittedly, Bombas are a higher end sock. They're kind of expensive relative to other socks you can get. And so I had never purchased them before. I got the Bombas, and it literally was like a life changer for me. Getting rid of that nagging side effect was so helpful. And I realized that the founders of Bombas actually went to Babson College, where I went to school for undergrad.
Boston, right?
Outside of Boston, yeah. And so when I started the idea for We Got This, I reached out to Jerry, who was originally my class dean at Babson, and now she runs alumni there and is actually on our board of directors. Wow. And I said, here's this idea. I've started talking out with some of my other friends, entrepreneurs, fellow Babson grads, and I think it can be bigger than what I'm thinking. This is when I was small, we'll just help people locally with breast cancer. And luckily she agreed. So she set up some calls for me with different mentors at Babson and alumni. And she was very willing, and I appreciate her believing in me so much so early on, to get me a meeting with one of the founders of Bombas. So one of my first calls was with Andrew Heath, one of the brothers that started Bombas. And I talked to him about the way I was thinking of creating this registry. And I was thinking of having affiliate marketing, which we do have on the site, and doing a dropship model. And he explained to me how that wouldn't work with larger brands because you would need access to their site and for different reasons. And I would dive into it more, but honestly, that's like the limit of what I understand on this very high level on the tech side.
Right.
So once he gave me that insight, it was amazing because it's again, kind of like by starting national instead of local, I started big instead of small with the brands. Unintentionally, I just think it was meant to happen that way because it pushed me to make the plan for how we created this registry and the affiliate marketing and the site in general. It pushed me to make it bigger. So instead of just starting a small website that through templates or plugins, I understood early on through consultants and friends that we needed to do something custom in order to allow patients the ability to register for anything that they needed. I didn't want it to only be Amazon or Target or Walmart. I wanted, you can totally register for anything through those, but I also wanted you to be able to register for something off Etsy or some local brand. You can register for a haircut at a local salon if they have it on their website. So those were things that were really important to me. Talking with Bombas early on and explaining that model, because the registry was now going to take me more time to launch. This wasn't a small idea. It became a much bigger funded project that I needed. I decided to start by doing the affiliate marketing model first. So we created what we called the marketplace, and luckily Bombas was one of the first products on there. And so if you go to wegotthis.org/discounts today, you'll get 20% off code for Bombas, and then we get a donation back to We Got This with every purchase. And then from that call, it made it very easy to then, Jerry again from Babson, who I love, connected me with a Babson alumni who's the director of global e-commerce for Crocs. And we had a conversation. He sent me out an awesome pair of tie-dyed Crocs. And within a week, Crocs had set up the same kind of affiliate partnership for us. And both of these companies, in addition to so many others like Swoveralls and Hyper Ice and the Andy brand bags, they've just been ongoing so supportive with product, whether it's for patients directly or for events that we're doing, fundraising. And that community, not only with patients and supporters, but with corporations and products and services, I think adds this really unique experience to all this and shows that a lot of these brands and people have really awesome intentions to partner up for good causes. One of the first people Jerry introduced me to was a Babson alumni named Tim DeMello. Mm-hmm. He's an amazing entrepreneur. One of the companies he had started and ended up selling to City National Bank, I believe, was a company called Gratify, which helped through payroll for employees to pay off student loan debt. And he was one of the first people that I consulted with so early on. This was when the GoFundMe was out. And he looked at the GoFundMe and he saw we had just a site created so people could make donations or see our story through that. Yeah. And he looked at the site, and at the time it was called wegotthis.team. And he said, "Oh, that's too bad you couldn't get wegotthis.org. Is it because it's just like too common of a saying?" And I said, "Oh no, we could. It's available, but it was $5,000 at the time. So someone must have bought it and held on to it." And he paused and he goes, "Okay, I just donated an extra $1,000 to your GoFundMe. I need you to get off the phone right now and I need you to purchase wegotthis.org." And it's something I'll never forget. We go by the name wegotthis.org a lot now because I realized that when I was getting interviewed for articles and different things, just saying "we got this" is a saying that's really common. So I wanted
Right.
people to know where to find the resource.
Distinguish it a little bit. Right.
And wegotthis.org makes it, every time I think of it, I think of Tim and that advice, and something that is seemingly so small and at the time seemingly so expensive was so necessary. You know, having wegotthis.org is our identity and who we are. And it tells people right off the bat that we're a 501c3 nonprofit, we're an organization. And that one piece of advice meant the world to me. And then, let's see, almost 2 years later, and I've stayed in contact with Tim, but it was a year and a half, 2 years later, Tim reached out that the startup he's currently working on, which is called Loop 45, it's like a hybrid of TikTok meets LinkedIn. It's short form video for the business world. And
that's interesting.
it's really interesting. And every video has to be under 45 seconds. So you know when you get a Loop 45 video, you're not going to have to watch it for more than 45 seconds. So it forces you to really think and be efficient about how you discuss your ideas. And they were using it for colleges like Babson, hospitals, and nonprofits. So he said, you know, now that you're up and running, could we utilize you guys? You can use the platform for free, and we want to see what things you would want changed, how you'd want to utilize it. And it was really neat because we're in process with them a lot of utilizing Loop 45 as the way that we can communicate with people through our website and trying to create a community in that way. So we're still working a lot on how that's going to look, but it just shows, like you're saying, the power of networking. It not only helps you with how people are going to contribute, but then in turn, hopefully down the road, you also are able to help them. And it just grows on all ends. And that's why I'm never afraid to ask people for help in those ways. I always try to find mutually beneficial scenarios. But if someone asks me if, you know, they can buy me a meal or send me a gift, I'm going to say no, you know? But if I had a resource like wegotthis.org at the time, just like Baby List, or just like I used the Knot or whatever we used for our wedding, it normalizes it and it makes it feel like you're not asking for something. It makes it feel like you're enabling them to get you what you actually want and need.
How do you convince people to join your cause? What is it that you do? Is it the passion? Is it the pitch? What do you do, if you don't mind getting into that?
Yeah, not at all. And thanks for recognizing the community piece, because that's our mission, to build a community of giving and receiving that helps cancer thrivers and their supporters live their best lives. So it's not just a registry. It's not just about gift giving. There's so much more.
It's bigger, yeah.
It's what's behind that that makes it so important. That's why, to me, investing my time in that is just as important as investing our time in research and cures. I think it's not an or thing, it's an and thing. We need to do this and we need to do that. You know, our lives matter along the way of all that. I think that positivity is so important, and I think that it's fueled by who you surround yourself with and the things that you're able to do. And that's why building that community is the major piece of this. It's the gift giving and receiving, and the idea of the Bombas example. I never knew that chemo could cause cuticle or toe infections.
Right.
You know, I would have never thought to ask anyone I knew that went through chemo about that. So when I give that recommendation or put that like on our Instagram or our website, and someone sees that who either is starting treatment or someone who has a loved one or a friend that's going through treatment, they just learned about a potential side effect simply through the idea of buying someone a pair of socks. So to me, that's where this becomes such a bigger deal and a bigger mission of building that community.
Do you feel like you're serving something that's higher than Elissa Kalver, higher than yourself?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I always say this is so much bigger than me. I do think, to your question last also, a big part of what I think builds the trust and the building of that community is in the fact that I'm going through it.
Right.
You know? I don't think that that's mandatory. I think anyone who really wanted to help in this way, I don't see how I ever would have been able to understand the way that I do without going through it myself. And I start a lot of my videos by introducing myself as Elissa Kalver, the founder of wegotthis.org, and I have cancer. and that's intentional because I want people to know up front who I am. I'm not bald right now. It's not obvious that I have cancer. And a lot of people, if I introduce myself or if something comes up about how I have breast cancer, immediately they'll be like, well, but you're good, right? Like you don't have it, right? Like you're in remission.
Right.
And, I never like to make people feel uncomfortable. So I was like, no, I do, I am good, but I do have cancer, and I have to be in treatment forever as of right now. There's no cure for metastatic breast cancer, but how lucky am I that there's treatments that can help me not only live my life, but live it with very high quality. That whole idea of living your best life through that. So whether it's someone who goes through 3 months of treatment and, hopefully ends up in remission and gets to move on from that, or someone like me who's in treatment forever, once someone gets a diagnosis and goes through this, it's a forever kind of thing, and how that affects people is so different and so unique. I can't relate to anyone else going through cancer. I can empathize, and I can want to support them, but I don't know what they're going through. No one has the exact same situation as me, and I don't have the exact same situation as them. And so that's where I think the power of community and positivity makes a big difference. And I also try to be real. Not every day is great. And a lot are, and I'm lucky for that. And I think I've found a lot of things that keep me positive and keep me thriving, as I say, and a lot of people say. But I want to be real too, that it's okay if in your 5th round of chemo, you didn't want to start a nonprofit and you didn't have the energy to do some of these things.
Absolutely.
That's totally normal and valid and respectable too, So I think the idea of focusing on that we're individuals is the most important to me.
If you don't mind explaining a little bit what you mean by cancer thriving, not surviving, and kind of because we talked about the colors of We Got This, it's black and white. Why is it not just pink? Why is it just black and white? We talked about it backstage, but I really want to really hear it on this podcast. So if you could answer those 2 questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's see. The first question, refresh my memory there.
Yes, just to talk about a little bit of the branding and marketing of We Got This.
Yeah, Thriver versus Survivor.
So
early on in learning about metastatic breast cancer, I didn't even know what metastatic meant. And so for anyone on this, if you don't know, that's quite understandable. I didn't before. It's the same thing as stage 4. As far as I know, I think the word metastatic breast cancer versus stage 4 breast cancer is used to not make it sound quite so scary.
Yeah.
And like
it's
I
interchangeable.
said, and a lot of people can, live long lives with it and continually longer as we have more treatments. But first off, when you ask someone how their day's going and they're having a bad day, a lot of people are just like making it. People be like, I'm surviving, right? So I never felt like surviving was an accomplishment, right? Like just being alive to me is surviving, and that's okay. If that's all you did today was survive, yes, I actually take back what I just said. That is an accomplishment.
Yeah, of course.
But it's not the goal. It's not my goal. My goal is to thrive, to live my life as happy as possible. Also, I haven't survived. I haven't survived cancer. I still have cancer. I'm still in treatment for cancer. So a lot of metastatic or stage 4 cancer patients, survivors, however you want to refer to it, don't identify with the word survivor. But then I know people who consider themselves survivors from day one, like the day that they're diagnosed, knowing that they're continuing to live and be here, that makes them feel like a survivor. So that's where, just like anything else, I think it's so individual to us. And that's why I felt that for the nonprofit, the term thriver was most inclusive. That use whatever word is going to resonate most with you, but that just felt the most inclusive to include everyone. And that relates to other terms too. Like some patients don't like the word fight. I used to own a boxing gym, so I love the word fight.
Oh, right. Makes sense. Right.
Some people consider the term fight as if there's a win or a loss. And I totally understand that. I just view it so differently.
Yeah.
To me, like if you're fighting, you're winning. You know?
Yeah.
And I think redefining what it means to live is a big part of what I've uncovered. For me, when people say things like, I know you're going to beat it, it's okay if I don't beat cancer in my lifetime. I'm okay with that. Like, that's not my ultimate goal. My goal is to live a full life with cancer, to live the way I want to live. If there's a cure, amazing. But it's like if I'm on a diet and I'm looking to lose 10 pounds
Right.
versus get six-pack abs. It's okay. I don't need six-pack abs.
Right.
I just want to be healthy.
Right, right.
And so,
Good example. I like
yeah,
that.
thank you. So that's something that's really resonated with me a lot lately, is really redefining what it means to win, what it means to beat it. And I think certain choices that we make throughout the process are indicative of surviving, are indicative of beating cancer, regardless if it's technically been done. So then to your question about the branding and the colors, it was really important to me that pink wasn't anywhere.
Right.
And no hate on pink.
I'm wearing pink right now.
Yeah, it's
I
a
love
great
pink.
color.
Yeah.
You know, it's my daughter's favorite color.
Yeah.
It honestly was never one of my favorites. I was always like a tomboy, and my favorite color was always blue, you know?
Yeah. Oh, me too. Turquoise for me.
I love it. Yeah, like a nice turquoise, royal blue. I dig it. But when I started this, even still, there's some family members who will post or like repost something and be like, check out, you know, my friend or my cousin's nonprofit that supports breast cancer patients. And then that's fine. I appreciate it. Anyone spreading the word however they can. But I wanted to make sure that everyone knew that we were inclusive of all types of cancer. Just because I have breast cancer doesn't mean that I'm only looking to support people with breast cancer. I feel that what we've uncovered, the need that we've uncovered, is for anyone with cancer and beyond. I think it's for really a registry for the hard times, ultimately. And early on, I thought that. And a friend of mine said, you know, Amazon started by selling books. So you don't have to do it all right now. And having that focus on cancer is most relevant. And I think we can make the most impact right now. But do I think people going through infertility and diabetes and autoimmune diseases, there's so many other things where the "We Got This" slogan and message and community and resource as a registry could be really useful too. So that's a big picture, you know, blue sky idea that I have eventually for it. But that's why I wanted to keep things as classic. I won't say generic because I think the black and white is cool. And what I love about that and why it had to be "We Got This," not "I got this" or "You got this," is because it is for everyone. When you think about communal, and think about one registry. So if I create a registry, there might be a few hundred people that go to that registry to support me. So ultimately, the demographic of people who don't have cancer that go to wegotthis.org is most likely and hopefully more than the amount of patients and people with cancer.
Right.
And that, I think, really opened my eyes quite a bit to how important this really was. It goes so beyond gift giving, right? It's the weight of what comes behind giving and receiving.
It's 4D chess. That's just layer one. There's so many layers, you know, under it. And I love that.
It was important to me, too. It was very early on that a friend of mine, Megan Levitt, she made our logo. And she actually had lost her mom to metastatic breast cancer.
Rest in peace.
And you know, I didn't understand a lot about metastatic breast cancer then, and I've learned obviously so much more now. But as we were doing the GoFundMe and coming up with the name, we had already come up with the name, and I really wanted to come up with the logo. And she came up with this logo that we still have, and we have it in a few different formats depending on where you see it. But this is our classic stacked logo, and when she came up with this, it just all connected to me. Because in the middle of the W is a cancer ribbon. But a lot of people interpret that as holding hands or other things. It's not like in-your-face cancer. And I think that helps people quite a bit too, because it's what you want to take from it. You know, I know people who suffer from addiction who love wearing the "We Got This" stuff. Or, you know, like I said, diabetes, autoimmune diseases, like, it's all inclusive of that. But I like that, you know, it's about cancer, yes, but it's subtle in some of those ways. You know, when you go to our site, it says "Cancer sucks, but together we got this," and that, of course, it's not like a secret. This is for cancer patients. But I think it's also nice that it's a little unique and different from your average nonprofit that you might see.
It's relatable for anyone that's going through a hard time. Cancer, addiction of any type of sort. You know, these are big problems we have in America, especially drug and alcohol addiction. So
Absolutely.
It's good that people can relate to something, because it's just human psychology. When you can relate to something to another human being, especially a big corporation like yours, nonprofit organization like yours, when you can relate to something, chances are you have increased willpower to get through what it is you're going through in the most graceful, in the most just raw and honest way that you can,
Yeah. I love that. It's a feeling of connection.
It's a feeling of connection.
And that's why I always hesitate before I say certain things. If anyone has told me you got this, I appreciate it. And I do, 100%.
Right.
It's what I said when I was first diagnosed, when I was telling family and friends. I said, it's okay, I got this. Mm-hmm. But I don't think patients and survivors want to hear that you got this. It's the we. Like, you don't want to feel like, oh, you're good, you got this. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be alone. You want to be a part of a community and connected and know that people are in it with you. Mm-hmm. And that's why, regardless of how I say it, it's always, we got this. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. If someone says you got this, I usually say, no, we do.
Right.
Because we do.
It's more community rather than personal. It's like,
Yeah. Everyone's going through something.
Yeah.
And I referenced earlier, like, whether I have hair or not, people won't know right off the bat if they don't know me what I'm going through or what I'm not. And depending on which treatment I'm on or where I've been at in the past 2.5 years, that version of what I'm going through looks different. And that's, again, why I can't relate or, totally identify with anyone else. It's their individual scenario. Having stage 4 metastatic breast cancer, that's much different than other types of breast cancer.
Right.
In some ways, I relate more to further stages of other types of cancer than I might. I haven't had any surgeries for stage 4 unless you have any kind of like infections or things like that. You wouldn't have mastectomies because it spread to other parts of my body. So, I've had cancer in my lymph nodes, all in my liver, my lower spine, my brain. We can't cut out my brain. I need it to run the website,
right. Yeah.
We can't cut out my whole liver.
Right.
We can't take out a piece of my spine.
Right.
So where you don't die from tumors in your breast, unfortunately, where it becomes terminal is when it spreads to other parts of your body. Removing my breast isn't an option to be preventative. That's kind of newer in what they've just uncovered in a general sense. Anything that I'm saying could be case by case.
Right.
But in a general sense, removing my breast is not, if anything, it's comforting to know that we might catch it first coming back in my breast than in other places.
And again, it's case by case, but we're talking about Elissa's specific journey. So she can't speak on behalf of everybody, but she could speak on the behalf of herself. So I completely get it. I respect it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And just to get a little bit into because there's, of course, people watching this that are inspired by you, that want to take action. How do you recommend they get funding from other people, be it venture capitalists, funders, seed funders? There's so many different types of people that are willing to invest in someone, talking about monetarily here. Mm-hmm. Is there a certain pitch deck you have when you talk to these people? Is there a certain angle? Is there something, you know that maybe we should know, we need to learn from you? Is there anything you recommend on that front?
Yeah, I think so. Early on, I did a lot of research in deciding whether or not this idea was a for-profit or a nonprofit model.
Right.
I obviously decided that it was a nonprofit model, but I spent some time too talking with venture studios and accelerator programs, and ultimately my goal was to get this website up and running as fast as possible. So in my analysis, I decided, where can I get the funding the fastest? Is it through venture capitalists or venture studios and like a for-profit model,
right,
or is it nonprofit? And I felt like, because I was so passionate to this, it was so personal to me and how well the GoFundMe was doing. We ultimately raised over $100,000 just in the GoFundMe.
Wow.
I decided that...
That's impressive.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I decided that was the way I wanted to do it. And I do think that because I had full autonomy over how we were doing this, and we have a board of directors and other people that I make sure collaborate on these decisions, but because we're able to make those decisions quickly, over the past 2 years, we've raised over $500,000, all through crowdsourcing, peer-to-peer fundraising, and me, frankly, busting my ass. Well,
this is impressive. So,
thank
yeah.
you. I think that in my scenario, I found the route that made the most sense because this is so personal. I'm so passionate about. I mean, I live my brand. Like
I could tell.
I don't just wear it because I'm promoting something. It's who I am. It's a part of me. And that's not always the case. It depends on what your business and what your mission or objective is. In getting funding, I think it's really how connected you are and how passionate you are about it, whether it's something like this that relates to my life or a software someone creates or a product or a service, whatever that is. I personally think that people want to invest in the person that's creating something that they really care about. So I think taking the time to really fine tune your idea, to know that there's a market for it. It's hard to come up with something that's totally original. So what makes you unique? What makes what you're doing something that someone should want to invest in? What's in it for them? If it's a for-profit, there's going to need to be a reason why someone wants to give you money. And even in a nonprofit sense too, a lot of people want to donate towards this. One, maybe just because they want to support what I'm doing.
Support the cause, yeah.
Or, most likely it's because cancer has affected them. Most people will totally resonate with the idea like, wow, yeah, it was so hard for me to know what to get for my family member, my friend when they were diagnosed. I wish that I had this. Or it was so hard when I was diagnosed and I didn't have something like this. So I think really uncovering the need. What's the problem that you're trying to solve? And if it isn't a problem, then you might need to revisit it.
Right. Really reevaluate.
Yeah.
All very good advice, and from someone that is validated in what they do. She's not just talking. She actually went there and she did it. So I could take advice. Anyone watching this could really take advice from Elissa. Moving into a little bit of the social aspect. So I want to transition and then we'll finish things off.
Sure.
Because I have a lot to learn from you, like I've been saying throughout this interview. What is something that me or anyone watching this could maybe change their behavior towards cancer, towards people going through cancer, excuse me. What is maybe behavior we can change as a society of ones that are going through cancer? Is there things we're doing right? Is there things we're doing wrong? Is there anything you recommend on that front?
I think that not being afraid to ask people things is important. And not everyone's open to sharing. Like I talked about from the beginning, I'm obviously, on the end of being very open.
Right.
We were in Rhode Island recently for a fundraiser we did at Topgolf. They just opened up a Topgolf in Cranston, which is where my husband's from.
Right, he's from there, right.
So I thought it would just be so cool to we do a golf tournament in my hometown of Andover, Mass. in June. So it's like, let's go to the East Coast in winter because now we can golf. Because at Topgolf they have heaters and all that. Yeah. And we were there during that week and getting ready for the event. And we went out to coffee one morning and breakfast with my daughter and our friends and their kids. And we were sitting down. And this family walked in. They had like 3 or 4 kids. And their daughter was bald. And I was hesitant at first. And I was like, I'm gonna go up and say something. And I had the bracelet on, the one that I gave you.
Right, there we go.
And I went up to the mom and I said, I hope you don't mind me asking, but is your daughter going through cancer treatment? And she said, yeah. And I said, I just felt inclined to come over. I have a nonprofit called WeGotThis.org, and I have breast cancer myself. And, she immediately, you could tell she was excited that I said something. And,
I love it. Yeah.
She explained that her daughter had a Wilms tumor, which I wouldn't have known anything about, but we did for my friend's niece, and I'm also friends with her sister, so her friend's daughter. We did a Brave Like Baylor initiative, and Baylor had a Wilms tumor, and she's doing great, now through treatment. And so I was able to relate a little bit, and I talked to the daughter, and she was so energetic and happy, and she came over, and I gave her my bracelet, and we connected through social media, and I invited them to the event the next day. They couldn't come, but it was so wonderful making that connection. And I know personally, I like talking about what I'm going through. For people who have suffered grief, or everyone's different, right?
Yeah.
Like I said, but I think that a lot of times people want to talk about it. And opening that up, I think, is a really nice thing to do if you feel comfortable doing it. And could it have gone the other way? Yeah. And then I would have just said, I'm so sorry.
Right.
But, I felt that energy and inclined to say something, and I'm really glad that I did. So there's that. I also think that really understanding, again, that we're individuals and what everyone's going through is different. So saying things like, oh, my cousin has exactly what you have, or my brother's sister's, mother-in-law, she has exactly what you have. It's unintentionally insensitive because it's most likely not true. And you probably don't know exactly what I have or exactly what someone else has. Within breast cancer, there's not only different stages, and there's even beyond that, like there's stage 0, there's previvors with the BRCA gene or other things. I don't have any genetic mutation or BRCA. And then beyond that, there's HER2 positive or negative, estrogen and progesterone positive or negative, triple positive, triple negative, the different genetic mutations. There's way more than just the BRCA gene. That one has just been more well known because of a lot of celebrities and being outspoken about it. But there's just so many elements to it that, again, even if someone does have the same thing, which is unique, out of the hundreds of breast cancer thrivers that I've spoken to, of maybe know 2 that have almost exactly what I have, but still our scenarios are slightly different. And so that's where just really treat people as individuals, whether it's cancer or anything else. If they have a headache, it might be because they're tired or they get headaches, or it might be because they're going through chemo. I get nosebleeds a lot,
Yeah.
And I think it's like our instinct to always relate to people.
Right.
And I think that can be a good, and it's something that like you're trying to fix it. And sometimes we can't always fix things. We just need to hear people out.
So really don't be, and you could correct me if I'm wrong, but don't be presumptuous about things.
Yeah. Don't be assumptive, and maybe take a minute to hear about someone's scenario, or just ask a couple more questions so you can understand it a little bit more.
Yeah.
I think we could all learn more from each other. My mother-in-law, she's over 10 years out from stage 4 lymphoma.
Wow.
It's just unbelievable. So
Sounds like a tough woman to me.
She's a badass. Yeah, for sure. And when she was diagnosed, and I mean, it's amazing. We were told she wasn't going to live, for sure this long, and now she's considered cured. And I never asked her about her chemo symptoms. I was afraid to. And I really, honestly, I would have had no idea what to ask. So opening up that conversation is important to me. Now I can talk to her about those things and understand. So again, like the Bomba's example, that it's a product that then lets you know a symptom. Some of these educated things we're trying to proactively do so that people don't have to ask uncomfortable questions, or maybe it prompts them to know what else to ask, how they can help the people that they love.
So personally, if I helped one person today, I did my job. I need to ask you, it compelled me to ask, just like when you just said this, you said that you were uncomfortable asking your mother-in-law about her cancer experience until you went through it yourself and you could relate to. Let's say there's someone watching this that they have a friend, a family member, a mother or father-in-law, whatever it may be, that the person that they know is going through that, but they do not have cancer. How do you recommend they open up that dialogue, open up that conversation?
I think that's simply saying, how can I best support you?
How can I best support you?
It's a little different than saying, what do you need?
Yeah.
Let me know if there's any way I can help. I'm guilty of that. I still catch myself saying that.
Catch yourself saying what?
Saying,
what do you need?
like, let me know if you need anything.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Yes.
Because I genuinely mean it, and I think
and it's
everyone
like kind of a
does.
common saying.
Yeah, it's a
people
common
say.
saying,
Yeah.
but it's so open-ended that it's like, I'm not going to let you know.
Right,
Most people don't want to ask for help.
Right.
So I've reworded the way I say it into saying, like, in what ways can I support you? And that might mean just like talking about something. It's not always buying someone a meal or a gift, right? There's other ways that we can support people. When I was first diagnosed, I wanted to cut my hair short before chemo. It was advice a fellow friend with breast cancer had told me.
Okay.
As you start losing it, this is the shortest my hair's still ever been. I always had
great.
very long hair. Thank you.
Yeah.
And she was like, you might want to cut it because, one, it's so much more to fall out, and your hair kind of hurts. Like the roots of your hair hurt a little bit as it comes out. So it was in the middle of COVID, and I was about to start chemo the next day. I had no idea where to get a haircut. And a friend had reached out of like, let me know if you need anything. And I was like, wait, I do.
Okay.
Do you know anyone that can come to my house and cut my hair? And luckily they did, and they sent someone out. And when I went to pay for it, they had already paid. And it was like, it's not that I couldn't pay for my own haircut. It was that taking that burden off of me, making it so that I didn't have to think about anything about it. That day was the night before I started chemo, which is so scary, and all of these feelings, and something I didn't know anything about because I always had been afraid to ask anyone about it who had gone through it. I felt awesome. Felt beautiful. I felt empowered, like out of my comfort zone. I had like an A-line bob. I never would have cut my hair that way. And it changed the narrative of what it was all about.
Yeah.
So let people know, or enable people to let you know how they want to be helped.
Yes. And we're talking more about, how can people help on the friends and family front. How do you think, because the truth of the matter is some doctors, and I've experienced this personally, have very good bedside manners, and some doctors are just very rude, and they kind of just don't care. They want to make their money and get out. How do you recommend, if there's any doctors or medical professionals watching this, how do you recommend they maybe change the way they treat people with cancer? I don't know if you've had maybe a doctor or two that have been, one has been good, one has been bad. I don't know if you've had.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk specifically about that. What is something maybe doctors, medical professionals should keep doing, and what's some things maybe they need to stop, they need to cool it?
Yeah, absolutely. So first off, it's like any profession. Is it okay that do you need me to wait till that goes by?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yes.
Okay, let's start.
For people listening, we had a ambulance come by.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay. Well, so first off, any profession, right? This happens. And it's particular being a doctor, an oncologist, or in this field where it can be really detrimental because it has to do with our health and our livelihood and being alive. When I was first diagnosed, the oncologist that I had gave me statistics. I pushed for them, but she just gave me open statistics. And if you Google metastatic breast cancer, I'm pretty sure, I haven't Googled in a long time, I know better, but I'm pretty sure that the statistic is the same, that only 20% of metastatic breast cancer patients make it past 5 years. I know MBC patients who are 15 to 20 years out. So imagine from when they started to now, some of the chemo meds that I'm on didn't even exist. 10 years ago, they were in clinical trials.
Wow.
So to go off of just that is, one, just inaccurate. We just don't have updated data on it, and not looking at it in a personal way. Like that's just a bomb to drop on someone.
Yeah.
Needless to say, I wasn't with my initial oncologist.
Pretty
very
unprofessional
long.
to say that. Yeah.
I mean, it's not like she was lying. She was accurate in what she was saying. She just didn't add but there's a lot of advancements in ways that you can live with this.
Which she should have done that.
Yeah. So I took the initiative to get second opinions and get to the oncologist that did say that. And not every cancer everything is different in what those solutions look like, but you need to feel comfortable with your doctor.
Yeah.
And if you don't, I know that we always say advocate for yourself and all that, and I believe that wholeheartedly, and I believe that that's what keeps people not only living and surviving, but thriving.
No doubt, yeah.
But I know that can be hard to do.
Yeah.
So if you're not that, I don't mind advocating for myself. I'm not afraid of speaking up.
Right.
But if someone is, then I think really identify your community and your caregivers and your supporters who can help you speak up. A good doctor will not be upset that you want a second opinion. If a lot of people feel like they're going to offend their doctor, if your doctor's offended by you wanting a second opinion, personally, that to me is not a secure doctor.
Yeah, maybe if you're a doctor and you're going to act like that, maybe reconsider being a doctor.
Yeah,
that's not the job for you, honestly.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's great advice, and I love it. How do you, and if you don't mind me asking, you and your husband, Eric, how do you guys balance running a business, going through treatment, and taking care of your daughter, Ellie, if you don't mind getting into that?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
We're a team, and Ellie's a part of that team.
Yeah.
It's not like it's just me and my husband, Eric. It's me, Eric, and Ellie, and we include her in it. we don't hide anything from her. We haven't made a conscious effort to explain what cancer is to her yet.
Yeah.
But I don't mind doing that. And those are things that, I'm exploring. And there are a lot of great nonprofits that I like that focus on parenting through cancer. But as much as I cherish every moment that I get to spend with my daughter, with my husband, we also, I think, really value letting each of us be our own people too.
Individuality.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like there's my daughter even, she'll say, I want family time. Or she'll say to my husband, she'll say, Daddy, I want girl time. Or she'll say things like, I need space.
Right.
And I love that she's so emotionally mature like that. And I mean, I don't know if we can take credit for that. I will take credit wherever I can for her because I think she's just amazing.
Right.
But it's important to me that I go to hockey games a lot, and I go to concerts. And some of that stuff I do with my husband. Some of that stuff we do with Ellie. She's a big Kings fan. She loves Bailey, the mascot. Mm-hmm. But some of that stuff I do alone with friends too and other things. And some of that stuff my husband does alone. And I think that it's really important to find that balance. Mm-hmm. And we're not always perfect. I'm not always perfect.
Yeah.
There are times where I feel like I've really lived like I was dying. You know, there are times where I'm like, I got to fit everything in case I end up having to go back on a chemo that makes me more sick or this or that. But communicating is so important. Like, just like, I just hit the mic. Just like everything we've said, with communicating to people what you need, communicating that to your partner, to your family is important too. And even though she's 3.5, sometimes I communicate that to her. I was really fatigued this morning.
Yeah.
And I was sitting with her on the couch and she looked at me and she goes, Mommy, if you need to go lay down, that's okay. And I was honestly shocked. She's normally if I go to lay down with her, she was like, Mommy, sit up, sit with me, that. And it was really interesting that she said she could just tell that I was really tired. And I think that's really cool.
I love it. You have a very intelligent, mature daughter. So,
thank you.
And she's kind of like a superhero herself because when I met her, she was wearing the Batman cape.
Yeah.
That Batgirl cape. Yeah, yes. Okay, and I'm just going to wrap it up with one last question, and then we're going to talk about where we could find you.
Awesome.
So where do you see WeGotThis.org, the nonprofit agency, where do you see this going into the future?
I hope that everyone just knows that it exists. Where it is right now is awesome. Like, it is a gift registry where you can register for almost anything you need. We haven't found a website yet that doesn't work. You can add, if you just want donations and money, like a GoFundMe or a Honey Fund, you can do that right within the registry too. Yeah. There's so many advancements I want to make on it. I want to make it so that, if someone wants a higher priced item, people can contribute pieces towards that. I want to expand to other countries. We've gotten a lot of questions, especially about Canada and some other areas where people are like, I wish this existed here. All these things cost money, which is why it's an ongoing fundraising effort. But my biggest mission is just to spread our mission and for people to know that, like, regardless of how much more we can do, which I hope we do so much more, I just want people to know about it. I want them to know that it exists right now. Like, you go to WeGotThis.org right now, today, whether you have cancer, someone you know has cancer, unfortunately, if you have a child with cancer, like, whatever it is, let it help you. Like, please, I've worked so hard to make it a reality just so that you can use this free resource.
Get behind this woman. She's doing some big things. So
thank you.
Perfect. So where can people find you? Where can people find WeGotThis.org? Where can people find you, just so people know?
Yeah, absolutely. So you can go to WeGotThis.org. We're on Instagram. I personally do all of our Instagram content right now.
What's the handle? So
it's at WeGotThis.org.
Yeah.
You can check out my personal page at Elissa Kalver. And then you can see us on TikTok at WeGotThis.org. What other, LinkedIn, Facebook, whatever social media you use. WeGotThis.org, WeGotThis.org. Check it out.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And the links where we can find Elissa and her nonprofit, we're going to drop it in the description. Thank you very much. Comment below what you took away from this interview. I personally learned a lot, and I thank you for your time. And please comment below and go ahead and check the links in the description to get in contact with Elissa. Thank you very much, everyone, and I hope you have a great day. Bye-bye.